Hey, this is Abe.
And this is Alexa.
Welcome back to the Get Out and Enjoy Life podcast, or GOEL.
Today we're talking about our stay in Sirmione.
So in Sirmione, it was our true vacation relaxation spot.
Mm-hmm. We've kind of been going with all these different cities we've been at. And so it was really nice to just relax, not have any set plans whatsoever, and just really take in the town.
Yeah, so with this Sirmione hotel that we stayed at, it was named?
It was called Casa Scaligeri.
And with that, we ended up finding out it had a lot of benefits and added things that we didn't have to pay for.
Yeah.
The hotel itself is a little pricey. It's like, I think, 250 euros a night, which is quite a bit, which is the upper end of, I think, our budget for this trip for hotels per night. But with this hotel, it gave us a full complimentary breakfast where we could order off a menu. Yeah. And it also gave us chairs on the beach.
Yeah, which is really great because in some of the other places that we stayed, like Sorrento and Positano, they had beautiful beaches. But if you chose to go to a beach club, which that was most of what was there, you had to pay about 35 euros per person.
Yeah, so we started our day off I actually got up pretty early because I like to go and see the sun rise. And I like to go take photos of the street lamps with them still being on, with some light in the sky. So I got up about 6. The sunrise is, I think, around 6:28 there on that day. I woke Alexa up and
I couldn't do it. I am so we had just traveled the day before and it felt like a long day, and with the heat and everything, I've just been really tired. So I decided to sleep in a bit longer.
Yeah, and so I got up and I went in and did a little walk through the town. The town is not that big. Like, you can walk the whole thing probably in about 30 minutes, honestly, from end to end, maybe 45 minutes in the area that we were staying at. The sunrise was beautiful. There were only 2 other people out in the water swimming. Nice. And then I ended up coming back and I was exhausted. So I ended up just going back to sleep for about another hour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we went and got breakfast.
Yeah, the breakfast was pretty good, which, the breakfast is right across the way. And we got a omelet and...
a salmon omelet.
Salmon omelet. And I was surprised, actually, because I thought, when I imagine a salmon omelet, that, the salmon would be cooked into the omelet.
Sure, yeah.
Right?
It was all separate pieces.
Right,
the egg
everything
was one big piece, then the salmon, then the tomato, then the lettuce.
And the omelet itself, it actually looked more like a crepe to me.
Yes.
It was very thin.
Yeah.
And had quite a bit of oil on it as well. Almost or maybe it was butter. I don't know.
The breakfast was filling. It was probably the biggest breakfast we've had here because we usually just do a coffee and a croissant.
Yeah, and so this breakfast, the waiter came over and asked us if we, wanted a cappuccino, and then we're like, yeah, and then they brought over a croissant. And we're like, okay, and then...
And actually, from what I remember, I don't think they had brought every single thing to our table quite yet.
Yeah,
and so that's why we ordered the salmon omelet, because we were like, oh, we don't have all of everything on our table.
And so then they brought us a croissant, and then they brought us a basket.
Fresh baked croissant, let me tell you.
Oh,
it was amazing.
Good. With some powdered sugar over it.
Oh,
it was so good. And they brought us some granola and yogurt, which were this is our normal breakfast that we've been having here in Italy. Yeah. And we're like, oh man, did we order too much food?
Yeah, and then everything came out all at once.
Yeah, it wasn't staggered at all.
We couldn't, what we've learned, at restaurants here is things kind of come out slowly. So we were kind of shocked when everything came out at once. We couldn't even hold everything on the table.
No, the table is, just seats 2 people. And then there was this pair of, older ladies sitting next to us.
I thought it was a couple.
Oh, was it a couple?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Man was sitting
I thought, we remember it differently.
Yeah.
I remember a pair of older ladies sitting there drinking some coffees, and all they had was a croissant, and they ate that.
And the judgment was real.
Right. Whoever it was who was sitting there, they kept looking over at us. Yes. That was the big thing that we remember, and we're like, oh man, did we look like pigs just eating all this food?
Honestly, we didn't, because if you looked at every other table besides them, they had some kind of big breakfast.
Right. And then, we finish everything, and then the waiter comes over and says, "Hey, do you want another cappuccino?" And I'm like, "Oh,
no,
man.
I was so full.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm like, no, I don't want to, look like I'm eating so much as well. Just because the Italians, they eat very lightly.
From what we've noticed.
Yeah.
We don't
out
see
in
any
public.
big breakfast places from,
No.
yeah. our time here.
We've seen they have had like an English breakfast place, and it's called like almost like an English breakfast, like the restaurant that we saw.
Yeah.
The following day, actually, when we left, we decided just to stay with the granola.
Yeah, and not do a big breakfast or anything.
Yeah.
But that day that we did get the big breakfast, we also decided to go to the beach.
Yeah. And it was only about a 15-minute walk from our hotel. And it was gorgeous. There's some parks. There's like a hotel that looked really grand. We couldn't actually see the hotel, but it just had a sprawling yard.
Yeah, and like driveway almost.
Right.
The beach was really nice. It was nice to just kind of not do a lot. Like, I did a word search. Abe read a book on his Kindle. I listened to some music. It was really nice.
Right. And with Lake Garda there, it's the largest lake in Italy. I kept thinking it was the ocean because it's got waves.
It's so big.
You can't see across.
And you can
the
see all the
entire lake.
ferries coming in.
Right.
So.
Yeah, but then you'd see ducks in there and swans. We went and watched some of the kids feeding the ducks and swans, which is really cute. It's interesting, while they were feeding the ducks, all the ducks and seagulls and everything was coming over, and then the swans were just swimming over so
swans
elegantly.
were so graceful, and they were there with their kids.
Their teenagers.
Yeah.
The two white swans, and their babies were like gray.
Yeah. And as soon as they came over, it was like all the ducks left.
Right, everyone left. They just didn't want to mess with the swans, it sounded like, or looked like.
Cute.
So, and then we actually worked on our podcast for the remainder of the day and just really stayed in the hotel and, in Alexa's words, lounged.
Yeah. Also, while we were there, the manager of the hotel, she told us about the gelato.
Oh, that's right.
And so there were certain places that basically had real gelato, and those would basically look like they didn't have a lot, like in their, container that they put the gelato in.
In their display case.
Yeah, and then you would pass by these other ones, these other gelaterias, and they would have mounds.
Literal mounds.
Huge mounds of
it's
gelato.
probably like at least 6 feet, not 6 feet. 6 inches above the pan.
It looked ridiculous. And then every time somebody would leave those gelaterias, they would have huge amounts of ice cream in their cone. It was just ridiculous.
And it's hot out, and then it's all dripping down.
It's all dripping and messy, and
too much.
She was really great because she was like, let me tell you all the places where the tourists aren't going, and here's the time to go out. And she was like, about 10:30, that's when all the tourists come, because there's multiple ferries coming into this one place. It's a very popular destination, actually. And then about 6:30, everybody kind of leaves. So that's kind of when we kind of go back out, again. It's been really nice to get out in the evening.
Yeah. Also, the other thing was she had 2 bikes that we could use, like cycling bikes.
Yeah.
We didn't end up using them just because we wanted to keep it chill. But the other thing was with this, at this point in the trip, we've been eating so much pasta and pizza. We kind of talked about this earlier, but we've finally switched to just eating salads for the moment because
we just need a break. And I think it's like, when you first get here, it's so exciting to eat all the that good Italian food. But I know for me, the pasta just isn't doing it for me anymore.
No, and it's just hard on your GI tract, really, too. Oh my gosh, TMI, but just eating noodles every day.
Yeah, it's not our usual diet, and so we're trying to bring other things in so that we can kind of balance out. But yeah.
Sirmione really is a hidden gem. Unfortunately, we only booked about 1 or 2 nights there, which was one full day. But We're in the next episode, we'll be talking about our travels to Milan.
Yeah.
And we're going to be in Milan for
4 nights.
4 nights. And it's the very end of our trip before we head back to Rome to fly out the next morning.
Yes.
So we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for joining us on Get Out and Enjoy Life, or GOEL.
And don't forget to get out and enjoy life yourself, whether that's walking around your neighborhood, spending time with friends, traveling, anything that's meaningful to you. And we hope you continue to join us on our podcast.
And we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.